Afternoon friends, I welcome all the students of additional English for this semester. In unit number 2, we are going to study here the poem The Fortune Teller. It is by Joseph Furtado. Let us think about the poet. Joseph Furtado, he was born in 1872 and died in 1947. He was the Indian English writer. He was born in Bardes, Goa in 1872. He was self-educated. As far as his literary contribution is concerned, we find that he has composed poems. He has published the poems in 1901, Lays of Goa and Other Verses in 1910, and The Goan Fiddler 1927. The subject for his poetry is always Goa. He talks about landscape, love, habits and sentiments of the people of Goa. Now, as far as his style is concerned, we find that humorous style, reflective in tone, lyrical and dramatic, and he has chosen characters from simple people of the land, and he has composed his poems in Indian English language. That is very funny thing. That is one of the features of his poetry, that he has written poems in Pidgin language or Bazaar English, we can say. Let us think about the poem. The Fortune Teller. It is a dramatic monologue. It has rhyming couplets. Rhyming couplets means two lines rhyming each other at the end. Then written in a Pidgin Bazaar English, a pretty common sight in India. It gives us a pretty common sight in India, that often in India we do find that fortune tellers are sitting on roadsides, and people who are walking on the road or who are passing the road, they often take a pause to these fortune tellers, and they show their palm to the fortune tellers, and fortune tellers tell them their fortunes. That is a common picture in India. That common picture is inscribed by the poet in this poem. Here, the story is something different, slightly different. What is that story? That the roadside fortune teller is there, and he is talking with his customer, and who is that customer? That he is attracting the customer towards him, and that customer is an English lady. She is with her husband and 3 children. She is an English lady. The poem was published in 1927, it means that it is talking about the settings of pre-independent India. In pre-independent India, we find that British people were there in India. They were living their families. They were living with their families, their wives and children. And here, Indian people knew how to squeeze them with different tactics, and fortune teller is an example to squeeze that these English people. So his customer is an English lady, and you see, as students of commerce faculty, you have to observe it with a kind of different perspective, that how can you attract your customers. Here the customer is an English lady, a Mem Sahib. He says Mem Sahib. He gives respect to that lady. He says Mem Sahib, and that Mem Sahib is with her husband, and the fortune tellers, who was an uneducated but smart person, he tells the fortune not of that customer but the husband of that customer, and he tells the fortune in such a way that he expects, he provides service. Telling fortune is a kind of service. He provides service to the couple, and he just want to take money out of it. So we have to observe his art of fortune telling and tone of his English. Very Indian poem in Indian English. That is what is said about this poem. Let us think about the poem. So what is this poem? You see, fortune teller Mem Sahib tell fortune very well. Who is saying this? The fortune teller is saying. He is introducing himself and he is attracting the attention of the Mem Sahib. Fortune teller Mem Sahib tell fortune very well. Past, present, future tell. He tells the speciality of his fortune telling. So what is it that past, present, future tell, and even he says the charges. Only 1 rupees, all fortune telling fees. So he tells his fees also. Only 1 rupees. You see that the advertisement of his own profession. All fortune telling fees. Fortune teller Mem Sahib. He repeats again. Fortune teller Mem Sahib to attract the attention of the customer. Now you see what happened. Now she is attracted. The lady is attracted towards his fortune telling, and then he becomes successful to read the hand of the Sahib. Sahib's hand, 1 minute, please. He says. He says that you show me Sahib's hand. Sahib's hand, 1 minute, please. No like, no give me fees. Again, you see that kind of warranty like things. No give, no like, no give me fees. Sahib plenty money make. Then he start to tell the fortune of the Sahib. Sahib plenty money make. Half cunning people take. It is obvious that the English officers were also seduced by the native officers while collecting some corrupt money to them. Half cunning people take. I see Sahib married twice. It's an obvious thing that the Britishers, the British people who came to India, they came with their second wife, or they might have another wife in England, or sometimes they marry some native local women also. So that is a general thing about English people. Most of the people, they have their relations with another woman. It may be called as extramarital affair, or it may be called as second marriage as such. So it is obvious that he might have second wife. Another thing is that he is eulogizing Sahib. So marrying for the second time, it's kind of an advantage on the part of men. So he is attributing that advantage to this Sahib. Why? Because he is not, whether he knows fortune or not, whether how much expert he is there in the fortune telling business, that doesn't matter, but that he has focused on one thing, that how can I appreciate my customers so that I can squeeze money from them as a fees. So that is why he says that half cunning people take. Okay, I see Sahib married twice. The second Mem Sahib nice. It is obvious that the Mem Sahib who is there with him might be second wife, or she should be second wife of that Sahib. So he says that the second Mem Sahib nice, so nice and pretty wife. Keep Sahib dil khush all life. She gave Sahib children 3, all beautiful, bright to see. First, second boy is last girl. It is an advantage on the family that they should have male children at first, and then later on female children. So he says that first, second boy is last girl, like very pretty poor. And who will say that the children of the British people are not are ugly or not good or not pretty? So he appreciates the children like very pretty poor. Sahib reading very much. Again, he gives emphasis on the intellect of Sahib. Sahib reading very much religious books and such. Sahib start to rise in the west. No understand the rest. I tell no more, no less. But what make certain guess? Sahib's years now 44. Leave certain 40 more. No lie. Sahib, see this here. This line show age quite clear. I never telling lie. What good do Sahib or I? No good. And why I should? Sahib's fortune very good. I get now plenty peace. Sahib's fortune very nice. This is a poem. Now let us think about uh, each and every stanza. That means there are two stanzas, I think. Okay, there are two stanzas, two parts of the poem, but we will have some extract where there is a full stop. We'll have that kind of thing, and we will study them. Okay, so first stanza: Fortune teller Mem Sahib. Tell fortune very well. You can see such kind of fortune tellers are there in India. Roadside fortune tellers are there in India, and they used to tell fortune. So what he says that fortune teller Mem Sahib, tell fortune very well, past, present, future tell. So actually he is fortune teller. He should have to tell fortune, but he says that past, present, future tell. Only 1 rupee, and what he wants is only 1 rupees. Rupee. You can see the picture of that rupee here on PPT. It is the Indian rupee in pre-independent India. All fortune telling fees, fortune teller Mem Sahib. So the Mem Sahib, you can imagine that such Mem Sahib is there. She is going with her family, 2 children, 1 girl. Let us think the next stanza. Okay. What is it that? Sahib's hand, 1 minute please. He wants to see Sahib's hand. Hand means palm. Actually, he wants to see Sahib's palm. Sahib's hand, 1 minute please. And he reads the lines on the hand, and then he predicts something. What he predicts? No like, no give me peace. What he says that I am going to tell you true future, true past, present, and future of Sahib. If you don't like, if you say that, if you think that whatever I am telling that is not matching with the facts, then you should not have to give me fees. But he will tell it is his skill, it is his art of reading the family, reading the situations rather than reading in future as such. So no like, no give me fees. Sahib plenty money make. What he says that? Sahib plenty money make, because that is why British people are here in India, to make the money. They were here in India to squeeze the people. So his guess is quite right here. All these are his guesses, not the facts. Facts might be something different, but people like to eulogize themselves. So he eulogizes this Sahib. What he says that Sahib plenty money make. He doesn't say that Sahib plenty money earn, but he says that Sahib plenty money make by corrupt practices. Half cunning people take. It is obvious that if he is making money by corrupt ways, then there might be some another corrupt people engaged in the same business. They might have taken too much share of their own, and they might have left little share for this Sahib. But he just want to say that half cunning people take, means he just want to say that Sahib is not cunning. Sahib is not cunning, and Sahib is so simple that people take money from him. Cunning people, you can see the picture of cunning. Cunning people means the people, fraud people. People as such. Next slide. So what he says, I see Sahib married twice. You can see this Sahib. I see Sahib married twice. The second Mem Sahib nice. So nice and pretty wife. So how is she? She is so nice and so pretty that keep Sahib Dilkhush all life. That is why Sahib has married with her. Otherwise, if she was not ready to keep him Dilkhush or happy, Sahib might have seen some another wife. So it is a kind of praise, indirect praise to the wife at present who is with the Sahib. Next. Okay. She gave Sahib children 3. Why she keeps Sahib Dilkhush, or what are the ways to keep the Sahib Dilkhush? To give him children. That is the primary duty of woman. It is considered in that particular period. It is the primary duty of woman to give children to the man. So he says, and nowadays also we find that so many people marry first, second, third time to have children. Okay, that is the real output of marriage. It is considered by our culture. Okay, we don't want to entangle in all these things. Just let us focus on the poem that is here we have to talk about. She gave Sahib children three, all beauty bright to see. And who will say that the children of the Sahibs are not beautiful? Because you see, we have to appreciate the children. We have to accept, society accept the children according to the position of their parents. So here the parents are British parents, and even the fortune teller has to squeeze money from them. That is why he appreciates the children. All beauty bright to see. First second voice, that is again plus point on the part of the woman, that she is providing first second voice to the husband. Last girl in patriotic society we find. Last girl, like very pretty pearl. And how are they? All of them, they are like pretty pearl. Pretty pearl means beautiful diamonds. Now he describes Sahib. What he says? Sahib reading very much. You see, that was the duty. What was another work for these Sahibs in India? And what do? They read. And by reading the religious books and other kinds of books, they dominated India. So it was a common practice among the British people in India that they used to read. So he says that Sahib reading very much. Again, we will find that the syntax is broken here, but that is another aspect of Indian English. I will not indulge in that one, but just try to understand the poem first. It is an example of Indian English. Sahib reading very much. Religion, books, and such. What he is reading? He is reading books about religion. He is reading books about geography and all other subjects. So that is why he says that religion, books, and such. Sahib's star to rise in the west. Now he says that where Sahib will prosper, Sahib will prosper in the west. Now you see what is there in the west. In the west direction, British country or Britain is there in the west direction of India. So every Britisher has a desire that to go to their own country. They used to come to India to squeeze money, to earn money, to gather too much money, and then again it was their natural instinct to go to their motherland. So might be Sahib is thinking like that. He just wanted to go to his motherland, and to promote that instinct of the Sahib, the fortune teller adds these things. Sahib's star to rise in the west. To rise a star means to have a good prospects. And where he will have good prospects? He will have good prospects in west, means in Britain. When these people used to return from India at that time, they got their good positions, good name and fame in their own country. So he will also, if he goes to west, he will also get good name and fame in Britain. That is why he want to suggest. That is what he want to suggest through this line. Sahib star to rise in the west. No understand the rest. Again, what he says that I don't understand rest. Then what position he will get and what kind of prospects he will have there in the west. But he says that I just know these things. I tell no more, no less. What he says that I tell no more, no less. I will not tell you anything extra that I do not know, and I will not restrict something to me that I have seen in the hands or palm of the Sahib. I tell no more, no less, but what makes certain guess. If I get certain guess, then I will tell that thing to you. So all these things are, I am telling all these things because of my knowledge. All these things are the output of my knowledge that he wants to say, because he has to claim the fees in the end of this episode. Okay. So what he says, he predicts the age, Sahib. Predicting age, it's a kind of common thing, and even there is again a kind of art that is with the fortune tellers. They appreciate the personality. Similarly, might be Sahib might be 50 years old or more than that, but he says to tell little number of years of the life or the age is a kind of advantage on the part of the listener. If a person is 50 years old and I say that you are looking like a 40 years man, 40 years man, then he will be very happy. Similarly, Sahib might be old than 45 years, 44 years, but he says Sahib's years now 44, and Sahib will not take objection. If you would have said that Sahib looks 60 years, then Sahib would have said that you are telling lies. I don't want to show my hand to you. I don't want to listen your fortune. But he tells purposefully. He tells the less number of years to Sahib. Sahib's years now 44. Live certain 40 more, and he says that he will live 40 more years. Live certain 40 more. No lie, Sahib. See this here, and he says that I am not telling you lie, but whatever I see on your palm, whatever I read on your palm, that is what I am predicting to you. No lie, Sahib. See this here. This line show age quite clear. You see. So he tells some another line on the palm of that Sahib, and he says that this line is indicating your age, the line of your life. And Sahib believes in that because everybody likes to believe in the good things, in the positive things of one's life. Nobody wants to confront the bad facts in our life. Okay, so what he says that I never telling lie. Actually, he is telling all these things to eulogize the Sahib, to appreciate the Sahib, to squeeze the money from Sahib. All these things are lie. Most of the things are lie. So still he says that I never telling lie. What good do Sahib or I? He says that I am telling everything very truly. And what is my intention to tell lie things to Sahib? What I am going to do with, what good I am going to do with Sahib? No, I am not going to change anything in the life of Sahib. So, but his life is very good, and he has successful adventures in every part of his life. What good do Sahib or I? No good. And what I should? He says that whatever there in the future of Sahib, that is what I tell you, that I cannot. And why should I tell something extra, or why should I tell something bad? He says that I am telling true, not lie. Sahib fortune very good. So he focused the thing that Sahib's fortune very good. I get now plenty peace, and actually it is his desire that when he says Sahib fortune is very good, sometimes he believes that the lady will allow the Sahib to give money to the fortune teller. I get now plenty peace. He expects that he will get some plenty peace. Actually, he has said that my fees is 1 rupees, but here he says that I get now plenty peace. At least not 1 rupee, then they will give some plenty peace to him. Sahib's, and again, last line he concludes that like this: Sahib's fortune very nice. Why? Because he says that when I will repeat these things again and again, people will believe in me, or if not, then they will find appreciation in my words, and they will reward me for that kind of appreciation. That is what he wants to say. Now see, fortune teller, as I have told you earlier, this poem is a dramatic monologue. So what is a dramatic monologue? We have to understand that kind of poetry. It is a kind of poetry where we do find that the poetry is composed with certain intentions. What are the intentions? What are the features of that dramatic monologue? The speaker is clearly distinct from the poet. Here we do find that who is the speaker? Fortune teller is the speaker, and Joseph Furtado is not the speaker in this poem. Who is speaker? The fortune teller is speaker. So he is distinct from the poet. The speaker is a roadside fortune teller in India. Who is speaker? Fortune teller, roadside fortune teller in India. And you see, another aspect of dramatic monologue is that an audience is suggested. we come to know when we read the poem. At that time we think that there are some people who are listening to the speech of this first narrator, but the audience are suggested that they are not represented. There is no dialogue on the part of the audience. So similarly here we define that an audience is suggested here, who are but never appears in the poem. So who is the audience here? You see, an English lady with her husband and 3 children. They are the audience here in this poem. They never appear in the poem. They never comment in the poem. But we do find action on their part through the dialogue of the through the speech of this, through the monologue. There is no dialogue, there is a monologue. Through the monologue of this speaker, he himself speak. He only one speaker is there. It is called as monologue, and audience is there. Audience does not speak. If the audience speak, then there might be dialogue. But here there is no dialogue. There is monologue. Monologue means only one person will speak. Monologue. So the speaker is roadside fortune teller. He is speaking, and audience are just listening to him. What they are doing, what that fortune teller is doing, he suggests some action on the part of the audience. So what might be the action? The action might be that the Sai might have given his palm to fortune teller to read, and he might be happy. His face might be smiling when he says that your stars are there in the west, and when he says that you might have married. You might have married for 2 times. So the wife might be happy because she might be the second wife. So we can imagine smiles on the faces of these characters, their consents through the dialogue of this fortune teller. And when he is speaking, when the fortune teller is telling all these things, he is describing all these things, at that time his own character is revealed. How is his own character? He is a very simple man. He is in a struggle for the life, and that is why he has to catch the customers. And then again, when he catches the customers, he appreciates them. He wants to earn money from them. That is his simple duty. If otherwise, if he would have real knowledge, then he would be knowing his own fortune, whether the Sahib will give him money or not. But he has no knowledge about fortune, but he has skills. He is a skilled person, and out of this skill of communication, he wants to earn money. That kind of character we get out of this fortune teller. Okay, I think this is somewhat about the fortune teller. Students are expected to see the questions and they have to provide the answers on their own. Okay, thank you.